What is up everyone, and welcome to some more F1 23 My Team career mode, and we're here for round number 19 of season 7 of our Jaguar Racing career. We are just 5 races away from the completion of our F1 23 series racing as Jaguar Racing, and well, we're currently down in the championship after a recent difficult run of form. We are sat behind George Russell in the championship. You can see here we've also got a retirement announcement from none other than Pierre Gasly. I'm sure that will probably come as a surprise to a lot of people who remember Pierre Gasly entering into the sport, but of course you do have to remember that canonically we are now in 2029. So he would be entering, or this would be his 13th season in Formula 1. He's been around the block for quite a while, and the whole time that we've been racing in Formula 1, he's been at Alpine as well. So that's where he started his career, that's where he'll be ending his career. Like I said, we are currently 27 points behind George Russell in the driver standings. We're currently about 50 points behind Red Bull in the constructor standings as well. Right now, Charles Leclerc, my teammate, he's been on pretty good, performance, pretty good form. He's had some good podiums here and there over the last few races, and he's been making up for where I've kind of been letting the side down here and there in terms of scoring points and that kind of thing. However, not all of it's been my fault necessarily, particularly Japan. We were very much on course to win that race before I had an engine failure, so that was immensely frustrating. And last time out in Qatar, we did manage to bag the sprint victory, but we just could not convert that into a race victory. We ended up coming home in P4. We would have been P2 had it not been for a puncture that happened around the final corner of the track, which caused me to lose out to Albon and to Leclerc on the, like I said, on the final corner. They overtook me down the straight as I was struggling just to get it across the line, but hopefully we can bounce back here, maybe with at least a victory, but if not a victory, then maybe just to outperform George Russell here, close him down in the Drivers' Championship and see what we can do. We had decent pace on those medium compound tyres, you can see. We didn't do a soft compound run. We often don't, unless there's a quali pace program in the practice programs that it offers for us. It wasn't on this occasion, so we didn't do one, but hopefully the pace we showed there on the mediums is legit. Hopefully we'll be able to transform that into some good qualifying pace, but crucially into some good race pace, and hopefully we'll be able to perform to the standards I know we're capable of at this track. This is a circuit where I always go well, but I never go perfectly, and just once I kind of need a perfect weekend if I want to keep the gap to George Russell competitive, because we have a lot of difficult races coming down the pipeline soon. Mexico, Vegas, Abu Dhabi, all of those tracks, not ones that I'm particularly comfortable with. So I think it could be a real challenge for us if we don't get a good result here. And we put ourselves on the front foot by initially going P1 in Q1. We got bumped by Lando Norris down to P2, but as we ran the final corner, you can see we have made up a little bit of time, about a tenth and a half. 1:31.0 was the final time there, and that was good enough to see us through to Q2 in P1. So yeah, very happy with that, and hopefully we will be able to continue delivering P1 level performances throughout the course of qualifying. I was a bit nervous when I initially didn't see Charles Leclerc's name in this top 14, but fortunately he has made it through in P16, just 200ths ahead of Zhou Guanyu, who beat out Perez, Verstappen, Ocon, De Vries and Stroll. So a very surprising drop zone there, especially Esteban Ocon, a man who until the last couple of races looked like he was very much involved in the championship fight, and he's kind of tailed off now. It's become a 2-horse race really between myself and Ocon's teammate George Russell. So as we do a 1:31.9 on our banker lap here, we hopefully will need to find a lot of improvement over that if we want any chance of making it through to Q3, you'd have to say. We're currently down in P13. However, we are up 5 tenths on our time. Looks like there'll be a few more surprise exits here in Q2, including Lando Norris there. You can see he's in P15. He's had a really rough time of things. And, it won't be getting better because he's not currently out on track. The only people who are the 2 Alpines and one of the Hasses. So as we round the final corner, you can see that we are going to be improving by about a second or so. It's a 1:30.9, and that is good enough to see us through in P1. So yeah, very happy with that. And hopefully we'll be able to get, 3 P1s, top all 3 practice sessions. We've made it through. Leclerc has made it through. Actually, Liam Lawson and both of the Hasses have made it through. They're knocked out was Piastri, Fittipaldi, Hauger, Gasly, Norris, and Tsunoda. So, yeah, a couple of surprise names there. Norris and Piastri, they've been good for podiums quite a lot over the course of this season. Seeing them knocked out in Q2 is a little bit of a surprise, especially when you consider the Hasses both getting through, Magnussen getting through. Lawson, actually, to give him his due, has had a very good season so far, so I'm not going to take too much away from him getting through to Q3. But yeah, we now do a banker lap on another used set of soft compound tyres in Q3. It's a 1:31.3, puts us P4 initially. So if we want pole position here, we're going to have to go again on a fresh set of soft compound tyres and hopefully do even better than we've done up to this point. But you can see we've been actually bumped down to P5 now. Someone has gone faster, not quite clear who it was. I guess it must have been one of these two. Lawson and Vesti are the only 2 cars out on track right now. But whichever one of them it is, I might be about to usurp them, because this is on course to be a very good lap. We are improving by 9/10 of a second, and as we round the final corner, you can see we're up even more now. And as we come on the run to the line, it's a 1:30.4, which is good enough for pole position. And, extremely happy with that. But the job's very much not done yet. We've still got 2 races to win.
And with qualifying complete, let's review our top 3 today. Robinson, Liam Lawson, and Alex Albon. Well, that wraps up qualifying, but don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow as we head into the Grand Prix.
Yeah, it was Liam Lawson coming in P2 there, actually, 3/10 ahead of him. Albon qualifying in the top 3 as well. Meanwhile, Charles Leclerc, getting P6. It's not terrible. He's much better in the race than he is in qualifying, so I fully expect him to come through. Hopefully, he'll be able to keep George Russell at bay as well. But as for the performance that we're going to show, we'll have to see what we can do as we get into the sprint for the US Grand Prix.
Forget pit stops, forget fuel management. It's pedal to the metal all the way here as we get ready for today's sprint. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting sprint. Robinson lines up on pole position, and Liam Lawson completes the front row. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Albon, Russell, Magnussen, Leclerc, Teo Porcher, Sargent, Vesti, Doohan, Oscar Piastri, Fittipaldi, Hauger, Gasly, Norris, Tsunoda, Joe, Perez, Verstappen, Ocon, De Vries, and Lance Stroll brings the grid to a close. Which of these drivers will get pole position today? We will soon find out.
We're still in with a chance of winning this title. We need you to push as hard as you can in the 5 remaining races.
And push as hard as I can, I very much will, because yes, like Mark said, there are 5 remaining races, 5 opportunities to score points, which means all we need to do is outperform George Russell in all of them, get P1, win all of the races, and if we do that, then no matter what George Russell does, even if he gets P2 in all of the races, even if he gets P2 in all of the races with fastest lap, it still won't be enough to beat me. I would finish 3 points ahead of him, but even one race where he's finishing ahead of me could be the difference between me winning the championship and me losing the championship. And yeah, well, we've already buggered it once here today because of this parking. I was trying to just slow down a bit so I could readjust, and the game just took that to mean that I was done and parked. So yeah, 3 meters I've missed the mark by. And we're going to be reset for this, so hopefully we'll still get a good exit as the lights come on and the lights go out, and we will see what we can do. We've already had a good start here. You can see that I think Albon has had a bit of a poor start there, as has Russell actually. Leclerc is making massive headway. Look at that, he's already up from P6 to P2, P3, something like that. Yeah, he's battling Liam Lawson quite intently over P2 right now, and I think Leclerc has pulled it off, so he's up 4 positions on the medium compound tyres, no less, as well. Everyone else around him on the softs You know, Alex Albon dropped to P5, so it's not been a fantastic start for him. He's lost a couple of positions. George Russell staying put in P4. He's had a fairly average start there, you know, lost out to Leclerc, of course. I don't know what Leclerc did on that start, but that was absolutely remarkable from him. However, he is coming under a lot of pressure from Liam Lawson now, and what that's doing is that's holding both of them up quite drastically here, which means that I'm going to break away by 2.4 seconds to Liam Lawson on the opening lap. Leclerc has fallen behind him for the time being, but hopefully he'll be able to at least keep George Russell at bay. It does seem like Russell is looking for a move into P3, but I don't know if he got it done or not. We'll have to wait and see where he turns out, because this is Nick De Vries who is out of the race on just lap 2. Some kind of failure. The AlphaTauri is just continuing to have a torrid time of things. The best it's ever been for them has been like the occasional P4, I think, that they've had on a couple of races where, you know, they've got really lucky with something or other. So a safety car was called as a result of that. I think Nick De Vries actually, when he's trying to park his car up, just slammed it straight into the wall, broke his front wing off or something. So that's why the safety car came out. But as you can see, Leclerc in P4, just behind George Russell. Unfortunately, the safety car did neutralise the advantage I had over Liam Lawson, which probably would have made this race very trivial for me. We might actually have to work quite hard for this one now to try and keep the New Zealander behind. But you can see we've gone now on the safety car restart, and hopefully we will just be able to break away from the cars behind. But you can see Liam Lawson actually closing us down a little bit. It's only going to be 2 tenths as we come around the first corner, but 2 tenths is enough to keep the car behind, and hopefully we'll be able to have some better exits than him. You know, the soft compound tyres, they will start to go off fairly soon, you would have to imagine, and then hopefully we will just be able to stretch our legs out in front and win this quite comfortably, because you know, this is incredibly tense for me now, knowing that if I make a mistake, George Russell will be right behind me, basically, if not potentially even in front of me. As you can see, we've got a track limits warning there. I think that might be our second track limits warning of the race, actually, so we need to be very careful not to get any more, otherwise we will be penalised. But you can see as we make it onto lap number 10, Liam Lawson did continue to drop back a little bit. George Russell actually continued to stay right with me, but you know, didn't really put the pressure on me at any point. However, you can see through the S's on this occasion, he's a lot closer than he's been on most occasions. So yeah, he might actually put a bit of pressure on us on the run down this DRS zone on this occasion. It looks like Leclerc will be coming home in P3, which is a pretty strong result, given that there's only been 10 laps and he started P6. But George Russell is going to look for a move to the outside on the final lap of the race. We've not had any pressure from him up till this point, and finally he decides he's going to go for a move, but he can't quite get it done around the outside. I think the soft compound tyres maybe have gone off just a tad too much for George Russell to be able to use them to the effect that he would like, and as a result we are going to be able to hold on to this now. As long as we don't make any big blunders in the final few corners, everything should be absolutely fine for us to win the sprint and close the gap to George Russell by just a single solitary point. But a point is a point. If I win the championship by 1 point, then we'll know that this was the race that made the difference. So as we round the final corner, we're going to cross the line. It's going to be P1 here in the sprint today. I am very happy with that, but you know, we need to keep some perspective. Of course, there will be another race this weekend, a full-length race with full points awarded, so we need to now focus on making sure we win that one as well.
And after this round of the World Championship, here's how things look in the drivers' table. It was not the best weekend for our championship leader, and their advantage at the top has been reduced. Well, that wraps up Sprint. All that remains is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the Grand Prix tomorrow, so make sure you join us then. F1 is so popular in these parts now that we race here 3 times a year, but let's give full respect to COTA, or the Circuit of the Americas if you prefer, which laid the foundations for it. It still remains the United States Grand Prix. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Robinson lines up on pole position, just ahead of George Russell, who starts this event from P2. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Liam Lawson, Albon, Vesti, Magnussen, Sargent, Oscar Piastri, Fittipaldi, Teo Porcher, Gasly, Norris, Hauger, Doohan, Ocon, Joe, Verstappen, Stroll, Tsunoda, Perez, and Nick de Vries rounds off the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
We need a good result today if we want to catch Russell in the Drivers' Championship.
Well, if we want to properly catch him, we're going to need more than a good result today. We're going to need a hell of a lot of luck, because George Russell, if my calculations are correct, currently sits 26 points ahead of us in the championship. So in order to beat Russell today, we are going to need to win the race with fastest lap, and we're going to need him not to score. Yeah, that is going to be a pretty tall ask, I would say. Unless George Russell has a mechanical failure, it's not out of the question. He's had 1 or 2 this season, I think. Not quite as many as our 5, certainly, but Leclerc has had a few less than us, so I think maybe I'm just the one that's a little bit unlucky with the reliability. Ocon on the side of the Red Bulls has had quite a few retirements this season, so it's every possibility that George Russell might have one here today, or if not today, then maybe in the coming races that allows me to get back in the championship fight. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens regarding that kind of thing, because it is now time for the lights to come on. And the lights go out, and you can see that this time we've had a good getaway. I wasn't particularly fast off of the formation lap. We got overtaken by George Russell off the line on the formation lap, but this time we are going to stay ahead of him, and round the first corner we are holding on to P1. Meanwhile, Leclerc has dropped back behind Liam Lawson. He's now down into P4, but hopefully he'll be able to fight his way back, not only past Lawson, but hopefully also past George Russell. However, George Russell staying right with us through the first sequence of corners. This time, I'm on a used set of soft compound tyres. I think George Russell might be on a fresh set of soft compound tyres, because he's one of those AI drivers that rarely ever goes out for second runs in qualifying sessions, which means that he gets to hold on to, at least 1 or 2 sets of soft compound tyres, make them completely fresh. And as frustrating as that is for me, it's not really anything I can do, because I think that we would suffer quali glitch if we didn't do 2 runs in every qualifying session. But what it does mean is that George Russell is going to try and go for a move around the outside, and because he's got that little extra life in his tyres, he was actually able to pull it off, and George Russell has taken the lead of the US Grand Prix here on lap 1. Still a long way to go, 27 laps left, so I'm not too concerned that George Russell is in the lead of the race right now. But I am concerned that it seems like he has vastly superior pace to me. That's something that we need to address as quickly as we possibly can, because the quicker that George Russell breaks away, the less likelihood I'm going to be in his DRS range when the DRS gets enabled, and the less likely it is that we're going to be able to stay with him and have a good fight with him today. And, well, I need to really fight with him, because I need to beat him. Crucially, we have to win this race today. We don't really have another option, because if we don't, I think that the championship could very easily slip through our fingers beyond that point. In the last 4 races, there will be, I'm trying to think, what is it, a 32-lap possibility to kind of outscore George Russell if he finishes P2 every race and we win with fastest lap every race. And I think our points differential, if we get second here today and he wins with fastest lap, would be 34 points. So I would basically, I would need George Russell to have a bad weekend at some point, and I would still need to absolutely dominate going forward as well. I probably need him to have 2 bad weekends if we're being realistic. As we make our way towards the end of lap 4 and start of lap 5, you can see he's comfortably out of our DRS range now though, so in terms of the pace that I'm showing here, it's not good enough to match the Red Bull driver George Russell, my compatriot of course, and right now all I'm trying to do is keep Liam Lawson behind, but that's looking like it's going to be more of a when rather than if for Liam Lawson in terms of getting past me, because with the DRS he was just too superior on this occasion, and we're going to have to fall back into P3, and that is going to be really bad news for my championship unless I can get ahead of Lawson nice and quickly. I really can't afford to stay stuck behind him for all too long, because the longer we stay behind Lawson, the quicker George Russell's going to break away. But you can see on lap 7 here, Charles Leclerc now is looking for a move up the inside of us, and as we make our way to the apex of the corner, you can see that Charles Leclerc might just be fractionally ahead here, and he's made the move up into P3. We've been pushed off the podium. If Leclerc's going to do this, I need him to go on and win the race. So it was really frustrating for me. As you can see, we've made our way onto lap 12 now. That Leclerc is only maybe just getting past Liam Lawson now, having been stuck behind him for the last 5 laps. George Russell has been allowed to break away by a ridiculous margin here, and I think the championship as we know it could be beginning to unravel for me a little bit here. This certainly is shaping up to be the most interesting championship fight we've had to date if I'm going to be this far down with only 4 races to go. I don't know if I could even make a comeback like that. We did it once on F1 23, or on 22 I should say, but you know, this game's a different beast. So as we get a track limits warning there, we need to be careful going forward now to not get too many more. We are going to be coming into the pits on lap 12 along with Russell, along with Lawson, Sargent behind as well coming in. They're all going to be switching over to the mediums, I imagine. I think this race now might have just about got away from us unless we can get ahead of both Lawson and Charles Leclerc and then just hope for a safety car that brings me right back in touch with George Russell. If that doesn't happen, then we could be firmly in the mud, because I don't see a world in which we are able to catch George Russell on pure pace here today. So yeah, things are looking kind of bleak here as we approach the halfway mark of the US Grand Prix. But one thing is good at least, which is that Albon and the other cars in this train in front of me, with the exception of Lawson of course, are yet to box, and they are holding up Liam Lawson quite spectacularly, which is going to hopefully allow me to go for a move on the New Zealander in the not too distant future. You can see there's a train stretching all the way to P11. It's De Vries, Tsunoda, Albon and Lawson, and they're holding up Lawson quite dramatically, so hopefully we'll be able to make a move on him quite quickly. De Vries comes into the pits. Lawson looks for a move on Albon, but Albon covers him off to the inside of the corner, and that allows us to go around the outside of both of them, but we also get a very good exit from the corner to get ahead of Tsunoda as well. So we've effectively made 3 overtakes in the space of 1 corner there. We've got ahead of Liam Lawson crucially, and he has not got ahead of Yuki Tsunoda or maybe Alex Albon either. So as Tsunoda and Albon do eventually come into the pits, you're going to see that Lawson is far enough down on me that I won't have to worry about him. But also nicely, we have undercut Charles Leclerc as well. So we're up in P2 at the moment. How long will we be able to stay here? Will we be able to close down Russell? We are going to need a modern miracle, I think, as this is Albon retiring from the race. He's out with some sort of mechanical failure. The gap to Russell in front with just 10 laps to go is 14 seconds. Surely this isn't possible as Charles Leclerc makes a move around the outside of me into the first corner. With 10 laps to go, surely I can't make up 14 seconds. The only way we will be able to make up 14 seconds is if there's a safety car, and the safety car is because George Russell spun. Like, that's all I can think of. We make our way onto the following lap now, lap 19, and I thought about having a look back at Charles Leclerc. We ideally need to be ahead of him whenever this safety car comes out, because I don't know if I'll be able to make 2 overtakes under, or not under a safety car, but, you know, on a safety car restart. It might be too tall of an order, but I definitely think if we can have just the 1 safety car after I've got ahead of Charles Leclerc, we might be able to get ahead of George Russell. But the time is running out. 1 for the safety car to come, and 2 for me to get ahead of Charles Leclerc. It's going to have to be pretty soon, otherwise, you know, these medium tyres are going to go off to the point I won't be able to attack him anymore. So I'm glad that we did just about manage to make the move on my teammate, and hopefully we'll be able to keep him behind. But as we make our way onto the final lap, you can see that the safety car just never came. George Russell 16 seconds ahead with the fastest lap as well. He was absolutely unmatchable today. He was unbeatable. He was on another level compared to the rest of the field. You know, he narrowly lost out in the sprint by a matter of tenths. And now, as we make our way towards the end of the full race, it looks like it's going to be the same situation for George Russell, who I might be wrong, but I think has won 3 races on the bounce now. So George Russell really starting to look dominant and hitting a great run of form as we hit Charles Leclerc. The only thing we're going to be hitting is our own teammate apparently today. We've made a bit of damage to our front wing as well, so I'm fortunate to even be ahead of Leclerc here. But with this damage, could he potentially overtake us? I don't know. I think we were lucky not to give him a puncture, to be honest with you, with how hard we hit him. It would have been very easy for that to happen. George Russell crosses the line first to take the victory here in Qatar. and the best result that we can possibly get now is going to be a second place finish. But Charles Leclerc is still coming back at us up the inside into the final corner, but he doesn't quite have the traction on the exit of the corner, so we are going to cross the line to take P2. But that is an 8-point swing in favour of George Russell, and you know, we are now going to need some very, very big, and I would argue even overperforming results in the final 4 races if we want to win our 3rd World Championship in succession.
They take the checkered flag then here in Austin in what has been another fabulous Grand Prix. So, Natalie, what made the difference out there today?
I feel consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
Red Bull are our winners today after showcasing some incredible driving. There's been a huge push from them lately to stay competitive with the other teams, and they're certainly proving themselves.
Well, it is a victory for George Russell, but it is also a double Jaguar podium, so I'm not all sad today because you know, with Ocon I think failing to finish in the points, this is going to be a pretty big swing in the Constructors' Championship. Even with George Russell winning, I think it's a 7-point swing in favour of Jaguar Racing. So yeah, a good weekend for us as a constructor.
So let's see how the drivers' standings have changed. That's a positive result for George Russell, who further solidifies his position at the top of the standings. Let's focus on driver of the day, Natalie Pinkham. Come on, who do you pick?
There are a few contenders, but George Russell definitely stood out, I think. A really solid drive from him today, and one I'm sure the fans enjoyed.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. It was a tough race for our championship leaders, who lose ground at the top of the table. Well, that certainly was an exciting weekend of Formula One. Be sure to join us for more exciting Formula One action very soon.
Well, things are starting to get quite spicy because now there are only 3 drivers left in mathematical contention for this championship. With myself and Russell hitting form right at the end of the season, it is going to go down to the wire between me and him. Lando Norris is mathematically still in contention. However, he would literally need to win with fastest lap in every single race for the remainder of the season, and for myself and George Russell to record you know, non-points finishes or DNFs for the remainder of the season, because yeah, it is 103 points the gap between Russell and Norris now. So I imagine that will get wrapped up in the very next video that I do, which will be the Mexican Grand Prix for those of you who are keeping track. 34 points is the gap between myself and George Russell. So yes, now indeed, even if we win with fastest lap in every race, if George Russell finishes P2 in every race, he will still be crowned world champion. I need at least one of those races if I am winning with fastest lap in every race, which is unlikely to begin with. I need at least one of those races for George Russell to finish P3 for us to have any hope of winning the championship. So yeah, it's going to be a pretty tall order because George Russell's hitting form right at the right time. Yes, we aren't looking bad. We've never really looked bad throughout most of this season. We've just had a few disappointing results coupled with 5 mechanical failures over the course of the season, which have cost me, what did I calculate? It was 115 points based on my estimates of where I would have finished in those races. You imagine, even just one or two of those results would have been enough to be having me like fully in championship contention right now, rather than just like slightly bubbling under where George Russell is. It wouldn't even be a conversation we'd need to be having about, you know, oh, are we going to be able to bring it back in these last 4 races? You know, Mexico, I'm very scared about Mexico because we really need a extremely solid result in Mexico, and it's not one of my strongest tracks on the calendar by any stretch of the imagination. After that, we have Portugal. No Brazil on the calendar this year, of course, so it will be Portugal. Will be the track after that. That's a circuit that typically I can do quite well at, but it very much is dependent on luck. I feel like I get very unlucky at Portugal sometimes with things like red flags and stuff like that, because it is a very red flag prone circuit. You've got Vegas, which is just absolute chaos, but I'm optimistic again that we might be able to get a pretty decent result there. And then Abu Dhabi, you know, again, it's a pretty boring run-of-the-mill track, but we did get a victory there last season, so hopefully we'll be able to do back-to-back victories in Abu Dhabi. And if we can do all that, then hopefully George Russell will at least have one off day in the next 4 race weekends. That means that we are able to beat him, even if it's, you know, just a poor qualifying or something like that. That can be the difference. It can be the difference maker. So yeah, we are really getting into the exciting end of the season. You don't want to miss these last 4 races, because I guarantee they are going to be spicy. But that is going to be it for this video. So if you enjoyed, please make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.